Hi guys, in the last video I went over the general outlines of your project, but now in this video I'm going to talk about specifically what those assignments look like, the smaller ones like the agenda and the meeting minutes and so on and so forth. Okay, so you've met your groups and you're getting ready to work together. And after your group submits a topic, and again, you can submit several topic ideas if you want for me to look at a bunch of them and comment on which ones are the strongest, and that's fine. But after you submit your topic, you're going to start with the first thing, which is the group contract. A group contract is something that we do in the workplace, though we don't usually call it a group contract. But usually in the workplace, when you meet your group for the first time, you have a conversation where you discuss what has to be done, what the goals are for this group, what the deadlines are for the different pieces, who's going to be responsible for the different pieces, how are you going to communicate, and things like that. So I've had groups or committees here at FIU where we've communicated through Google Docs for everything. I've had groups where we've communicated through Adobe, we've communicated through Skype, we've communicated through WhatsApp. Every group is different, okay? But you have to establish ground rules. Sometimes in the workplace this is established democratically, and sometimes the group leader or your manager makes all the rules about who's going to do what, when it's due, and how you're going to communicate. But in any case, we do establish these rules in the workplace, and I want you guys to start practicing doing that. A lot of students don't like group work because they have groups that don't work, but you need to learn how to make your groups work. And one of the essential things to do is to establish working procedures. So I want you to think about everything that's ever gone wrong in a group for you and come up with a rule to stop that from happening in this group. So, for example, if you've ever been in a group with somebody who does not communicate very well, what can you say in the group contract this time to make sure everybody understands how much you expect them to communicate? So you have to have open and honest conversations about, like, should we be checking the WhatsApp every 24 hours, every 48 hours? Where are we going to communicate? Are we going to meet physically? Are we going to just meet online? Are we only going to meet online the 2 times the teacher says? Or are we going to have more meetings than that? Those are the kinds of discussions you need to discuss at the beginning of the project to make sure the group goes well. You should not be saying as you go, like, oh, let's have a meeting this Friday. Let's have a meeting in 2 days. That is a sure way to make it so that the group can't work well together. So you want to go ahead and establish the outlines of how your group is going to work and turn that into me. Okay, importantly, at the end of the project, you will be asked to turn in a group member evaluation where you are going to evaluate your group members. And everyone in the class is going to get a grade separate from their grade on the report based on how good of a group member they were. And I am going to rely a lot on your group members to tell me how good of a group member you were. So if a group member gives you a bad evaluation, but they can't really name what you did wrong, then your grade is not going to be affected so much. But if they say it's clearly stated in the group contract that we would communicate every 48 hours and I would go a week without hearing from this person, and then all of your group members say that you were impossible to communicate with, but it was in the group contract that you would communicate so and so often, then that is going to hurt your grade because it was a clearly established agreement and all of your group members are saying that this was a problem. So the group contract sort of lays out what you're going to judge others by at the end of the project too. Okay? Now, importantly, a note about group work. A lot of students hate group work, and they sort of fall into 2 categories. A lot of the students who hate group work are students who are sort of pushovers, and they get walked all over in a group, and they hate being in groups with really bossy people. And one thing that I'm going to need you guys to do is to learn to speak up, because that will continue to happen in the workplace. The same kinds of personalities who are on your groups in high school and college will be in your groups in the workplace. So you need to learn to speak up and disagree when you disagree. Don't just stay quiet because you don't want to cause a disagreement. The bigger problem is often the students who say, I always end up in group projects with people who don't do their work. I have to tell you that if you always end up in group projects with people who don't do their work, the problem is probably something to do with you. Because there are two things that happen. Sometimes the people who always end up in groups with people who don't do their work is a simple problem. They did not establish something like a group contract. They did not establish the expectations at the beginning of the project. And that's an easy fix. The other problem is that sometimes people are very controlling and they don't trust their group members. And so they try to really heavily control what the other group members are doing. And naturally, the other group members are like, if this guy is going to rewrite everything I do, make every decision without me, then I don't even need to be there. And then those people pull back. But you need to make sure that you are working as a group and not being a completely dominating personality either. That does not go over well in the workplace, okay? So all of you guys need to work together to try to be the best personality you can be for this group. And I will say that you're going to explain to me what part of the project you were involved in, but you guys are writing separately. And importantly, I'm not expecting you to do anybody's work for them. In the workplace, you are not expected to do other people's work. You get paid, they get paid. If you do your job and they don't do theirs, then the boss needs to know they didn't do theirs. You don't just cover for them and then say they were a horrible group member. Okay, so you guys need to learn to work professionally with each other and to have professional expectations of each other. Okay, now to talk about the other three things you're going to turn in. Okay, you can have as many meetings as you want as a group. For example, your group may have met or may have just talked over WhatsApp or whatever to pick a topic. I don't need proof of that meeting or conversation. Your group might meet 3 times, 5 times, or twice. I only need proof of 2 meetings, and so that everybody is turning in the same thing, I want you to meet virtually twice and turn in things related to those meetings twice. The first time I want you guys to meet virtually is whenever you guys decide to write the survey or questionnaire together, and different groups are going to write that differently. But whenever you guys are writing the survey or questionnaire or finalizing the survey or questionnaire, I want you to meet virtually, and I want you to turn in a few things related to that meeting. And then you guys are going to distribute the survey and questionnaire after it's been approved. You're going to get 30 people or more to do the survey, and then you might have meetings during that time, you might not. But then once the surveys have been distributed, once you've got more than 30 responses, you're going to meet together again virtually and turn in some things to me related to the meeting when you guys discuss what it means. Because even though you're writing the report as individuals and not as a group, all of you have to report the same data and you have to draw the same conclusion. So you have to have a meeting where you decide on what that is going to be. Okay? Now for each of those 2 meetings, you're going to do 3 things. The first thing is called an agenda, and this is another way that in the workplace we make sure that group work goes well. You have to set and declare the goals for a meeting. Meetings cannot just go on forever. You don't just say we're going to meet Friday at 8 o'clock and we'll figure out what we talk about when we get there. In the workplace, you set goals, and those are called agendas. They are usually just something like a numbered list or outline. You can Google around and look at different examples. There's examples in your book. I'm not making you read this chapter, so I want you to explain it here. An agenda is just a numbered or outline list where it literally says, we're going to take attendance, and then I'm going to explain, me as the group leader, I'm going to explain a new software that our workplace has to start using. And then each team is going to give us an update on the progress that they've made since the last meeting. And then we're going to talk about X problem at work that needs a solution. And when you go to the meeting, oh, wow, he's going to ask us or she's going to ask each team to give an update, so we better prepare an update. So one reason that an agenda is good is that it helps you prepare for the meeting. The other reason that it's good is because it keeps whoever's leading the meeting honest, because you have to talk about these things in this order. And if you have a time limit, like a 2-hour time limit, you can't spend an hour and a half on item 1 if you have 4 things, because you need to keep moving. So agendas are a really good way of communicating what is going to be done, what are the goals of this meeting, when are we going to know this meeting is over, okay? For each of the 2 meetings you proved to me, you have to turn in the agenda ahead of time. In both cases, I'm opening the Dropbox way early. So if your group does this way early, you can turn it in way early. It has a due date, but it can be turned in days earlier, okay? Then your group is going to meet virtually, and you are going to go ahead and meet through Skype or Adobe or whatever, Google Chats, whatever software you choose. And when you have this meeting and you're going over the things in the agenda, somebody in the group has to take meeting minutes. And I've given you some examples. And again, there's no set format, but it's usually like a bulleted list of things. And what you do in meeting minutes is you keep track of the different things that you discussed in the meeting. Now, you're not going over word for word what everybody said, but what were the major decisions that were made? And you can also discuss what were some of the ideas that were brought up and rejected. And this is a really good record for people who were not at the meeting. Okay, these were the things that were decided in relation to the agenda. These were the things that were brought up but rejected. These are the things we decided to talk about next meeting. Any sort of major decision that was made, you keep a record of, and that's called a meeting minutes. It's kind of like a meeting notes. The other good reason for meeting minutes in a workplace is, let's say you have a meeting 2 months from now. Often they'll circulate the meeting minutes so you can look over it and refresh yourself about what you talked about last time before this next meeting, okay? And also it serves as kind of a legal record of what you did in your groups during that meeting, okay? So somebody's going to turn in meeting minutes, and when you have the group meeting, you're going to have one person take a screenshot of your computer or of your phone showing that you guys actually met virtually. Okay, so I'm asking you to do these things because I want you to learn to work professionally in groups, but I'm also doing these things so that you can learn how to do real things that we do in the workplace, like group working procedures, agendas, evidence of a meeting, and practicing meeting virtually. Because even for me, for example, I work at FIU, I go to FIU's campus almost every day, but I still constantly Skype into meetings because maybe I'm on one part of campus, there's no way I can get to the other part of campus. Maybe I just got home and there's a meeting and I have to Skype into. More and more and more, we are teleconferencing, so I want you guys to practice doing that, okay? The last note I will say before I let you go is that notice that all of these things are one person in the group has to turn it in for the whole group. But I want you to evenly distribute this so every group member has to turn in something along the way so that every group member gets a chance to practice turning in one of these things, okay? I do not want one group member to do all of the agendas, all of the evidence of a meetings, and all of the meeting minutes, okay? I want you to distribute that so everybody gets an opportunity to learn. Please let me know if you have any questions. I'm going to pull back while you guys are working on groups, and I'm going to mostly just answer questions that are sent to me so that your groups can work naturally, okay? Let me know if you have any questions.